Patrice Lumumba was among the first of sub-Saharan Africa's post-colonial leaders. For an all-too-brief period, he was the first democratically elected leader of what is today called the Democratic Republic of Congo. Lumumba's story and his legacy are key points in African history. The Congo was originally a vast area in pre-colonial Africa located in the central part of the vast continent, largely landlocked save a tiny strip that reaches the Atlantic on the west coast. On the east side of the Congo is the Great Lakes region of Africa, where it shares a modern-day border with Rwanda and Burundi. In early history, the Congo was inhabited by various peoples who practiced a form of arboriculture and had iron smelting technology. The name Congo derives from an early empire called the Kingdom of Congo, which was made up of 6 provinces ruled by a central authority called the Mani-Congo. This kingdom ran much of the Congo region in the 15th and 16th century, long before Europeans had made their way to sub-Saharan Africa, save a few coastal forts run by Portuguese traders. The Kingdom of Congo had a large sphere of influence and was behind much of Central Africa's trading networks. The Kingdom of Congo was eventually defeated by the Portuguese, which led to major decentralization of the region into various states and smaller kingdoms. The ethnic composition of the Congo was diverse, with various ethnicities with complex relationships with one another. In the late 1800s, when Europeans penetrated into the inner regions of the Congo, the various ethnic groups found themselves under one singular foreign-imposed regime. European colonization of sub-Saharan Africa began in the late 19th century in the infamous Scramble for Africa, where various European nation-states divided much of Africa between themselves. In the Conference of Berlin in 1885, King Leopold II of Belgium was granted a form of ownership over the Greater Congo region and titled his new possession the Congo Free State. The imposition of the European model of nation-state was thus imposed on the diverse ethnic peoples of the Congo. There is a difference to be noted between the European notion of the nation-state, that is, a geographical boundary inhabited by a nation of peoples, for instance, the French people in France, the English in England, and the German people in Germany. The idea of nationhood preceded the invention of the borders of the modern state, whereas in Africa the model of the state was literally imposed on the peoples who did not necessarily identify as one nation. A prominent example of this dynamic is in Senegal and Gambia. Senegal, a West African state nation, had its borders drawn by the French, whereas the English managed to take control of the Gambia River, which ran through Senegal, which resulted in a separate state established along the river called the Gambia, which is only 48 kilometers wide at its widest. The ethnic compositions of Senegal and Gambia are similar, yet there are 2 separate states due to the dynamic of having such a system imposed above by foreign powers. Congo was similar in this sense, as it had diverse nations within it, but was forcefully consolidated under one singular state entity. The Congo Free State was run specifically by King Leopold rather than administered directly by the Belgian state, and was known for its brutality despite the rhetoric by colonial apologists who spoke of civilizing the Africans. The motivation of European powers for this takeover, like the rest of Black Africa, was a matter of possessing the vast resources of the Congo, which consisted largely of rubber, minerals, and ivory, among others. The indigenous peoples of the Congo were forced to work under terrible conditions. One of the most brutal realities that resulted from this colonial enterprise was the practice of severing the right hand of workers when they failed to meet rubber quotas. This was practiced even on children who worked in the rubber industry. In 1896, it was reported that 1,308 hands had been severed in one day. Belgian colonial officials insisted that these tactics were necessary to civilize the blacks of the Congo Free State. Congolese people died in enormous numbers due to overwork, malnutrition, and dispossession, due to the disruption of their way of life and from the brutality of the Congo Free State Army. Estimates of the number of people who perished vary, but the conservative estimates place the number at about 10 million people in the period between 1880 and 1920. In 1908, partially due to news of Leopold's company's brutality, the Belgian parliament voted to annex the Congo and took over the direct administration of the colony. Although there were some improvements in education and infrastructure, the Congolese still lacked any political power or influence over their own affairs. By the 1950s, a series of decolonization movements took place in Africa, starting with Ghana under Kwame Nkrumah on the west coast. Congo eventually achieved its own independence in the year 1960, after local elections saw the rise of the Mouvement National Congolais, or MNC. This was an indigenous political party comprised of black Congolese from various ethnic groups. The first national elections for the Congo took place in May 1960 and was won by Patrice Lumumba, who had taken the helm of the MNC when it split into 2 factions, one run by Lumumba and the other run by his more moderate rival Albert Kolonji. Patrice Lumumba was born in Katakokombi region, a member of the Titila ethnic group. He began with humble roots, but was fortunate enough to receive an education and worked as a postal clerk and a traveling beer salesman. He had become active in pro-independence movement and had served time in prison, having been accused of starting an anti-colonial riot. He was 34 when he was elected as Prime Minister, with his faction of the MNC, which gained 36 of 137 seats in Parliament, the remaining seats being shared among smaller parties. Many of these parties were comprised along lines of ethnic kinship, yet Lumumba attempted to consolidate a sense of Congolese nationhood that would transcend those kinship lines. Independence was officially declared on June 30th, 1960, with King Baudouin, one of Leopold's descendants, giving a grand speech largely glossing over the worst of the colonial atrocities, and handing power over to Prime Minister Lumumba. Lumumba spoke.
La République du Congo a été proclamée.
The Republic of Congo has been proclaimed, and our country is now in the hands of its own children. Together, my brothers and sisters, we are going to begin a new struggle, a sublime struggle, which will lead our country to peace, prosperity, and greatness.
Ensemble, mes frères, mes sœurs, nous allons commencer une nouvelle lutte sublime, qui va mener notre pays à la paix, à la prospérité et à la grandeur. Nous allons établir ensemble la justice sociale et assurer que chacun reçoive la juste rémunération de son travail.
Together, we are going to establish social justice and make sure everyone has just remuneration for his labor. Almost right after independence, the problem started to brew. Some symbolic changes were put in place. For instance, Leopoldville, the capital of Congo, had its name changed to Kinshasa. Lumumba raised the pay of every government worker, save for the military. The majority of military officers at the time were Belgian, as an indigenous class of officers had not been sufficiently trained yet. Some soldiers mutinied against the right-ruling officers and at times attacked European targets in the country. Belgium almost instantly sent a military force to enter the Congo to safeguard the safety of white Belgians still residing in the Congo. Lumumba attempted to grant native Congolese soldiers officer status, but his central government largely remained unable to control the military. The problems multiplied as the southeast province of Katanga, with the help of Belgian soldiers and the calculated support from much of Belgium's business interests, declared independence from Congo on July 11, 1960. Many Belgian companies still wish to extract resources unimpeded by Congo's central government in the province of Katanga, and this led them to support Mosi Tshombe, a pro-Western businessman and politician who wanted to see Katanga's mineral wealth stay in the hands of the people in Katanga and not be divided by the central government. The United Nations launched a force to replace the Belgian military. Lumumba demanded that the Belgians leave in 2 days and threatened to seek assistance from the Soviet Union if they refused. Lumumba was not a specific supporter of the Communist Soviet Union, and often tried not to get directly involved in the great Cold War rivalry between the Soviets and the United States, but he had appealed to the Soviet Union for assistance in this crisis. This alarmed the Western powers, and the more moderate president of Congo, Kasavubu, demanded that Lumumba step down as prime minister. The Senate supported Kasavubu, but Parliament did not, and therefore there were two competing claims for the title of prime minister. A third powerful figure came in to fill the gap, Colonel Joseph Mobutu. Mobutu organized a coup against both men, placing both under house arrest. Lumumba was smuggled out of Kinshasa and attempted to organize a separate government and military force to retake the country, but was captured and flown back to Kinshasa as a prisoner. He appealed to the United Nations troops to help him, but they did not do so. The Soviet Union put forward a motion at the United Nations to free Lumumba and reinstate him as the legitimate head of the Congo, but it was defeated at the vote. Lumumba was flown to Katanga province, where he was shot by firing squad. Although it was believed to have been perpetrated by Katanga forces, it was later revealed that two of the heads of the firing squad were actually Belgian officers. Some investigators have found written orders from the Belgian government to assassinate Lumumba. Belgium had a commission look into these accusations, but never officially acknowledged that they had a direct role in his death. Declassified documents from the U.S. National Security Council confirmed that the CIA had indeed conspired to kill Lumumba as well, although no solid proof of their direct involvement was ever found. It is highly suspected that Belgium and the United States played a central role in the killing, as both saw Lumumba's Pan-Africanism anti-colonialism, and occasional cozying up to the Soviet Union as a threat to their geopolitical dominance. At a time when black Africans all over the continent were demanding self-governance and opposing Western interference, it can clearly be seen why they would view Lumumba as a symbolic threat. Belgium had vested interest in the Katanga province, and the United States fought a ruthless proxy war against the Soviet Union in the decolonizing world. After Lumumba's death, Mobutu took over as head of the new nation of Congo. What followed were 4 decades of brutal dictatorship, followed by 2 horrendous civil wars, the second of which killed about 5.4 million people and displaced and dispossessed many more. Congo has since achieved some level of stability, but still remains a highly factionalized and militarized society. Never since the days of Patrice Lumumba, the first democratically elected leader of the Congo, has there been much optimism in Africa's second largest country. Although his legacy is seen as controversial at times, a singular statue of Lumumba, with his fist in the air, stands in Kinshasa to this day, a reminder of a time when the long-suffering region had a leader who spoke of bringing Congo into a brighter era.